Hey, just a quick video of these control valves. When we get them, they are not set. They're set to pretty well zero. So you have to set these things. And the way that you do so is they've got a lock nut and then a cap nut. The cap nut just protects the end of the threads. So the best thing to do is take your wrench, which on these is a 1/2 inch wrench, and tighten the lock nut first and then run the cap nut off of it, because otherwise the screw will just thread all the way out of here. So you've got a cap nut and then a washer and then a lock nut and another washer. And this is an Allen head in the inside of here. So what I typically do, this is a 3mm Allen wrench. So you run this lock nut back a little bit and then just keep your finger on it and run this screw all the way in. Now these valves are a 0 to 2,500 pound valve. So by running it all the way in, if you think of this like a carburetor, it's a needle in there. Technically it's a ball with a spring behind it, and then the screw pushes on the spring. So when you run it in, you just run it till it's slightly snug. Don't crank on her, you could damage something. But then what I do is take the wrench and set it somewhere that's predictable. Like here, I'm kind of lined up on that corner. And now I'm going to back it out 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2 turns. And this is kind of just a generic setting. Because we're working with a valve that is 0 to 2,500 pounds, this should put us somewhere in the 2,000 pound range. Now, because of variances in the manufacturing of these, it could be anywhere from 1,800 to 2,200 pounds. And if you find that your plow is turning too easily, you can always loosen this and give it a 1/2 of a turn in. You'll gain about 200 pounds of pressure for every 1/2 turn. But you don't want to bottom it out, because what that'll do is close off the port so that the oil can't go from one side to the other. Now, if the ports are closed, if you ran both of these in bottomed out and locked them in place, the plow will still function just fine. It just won't have any shock absorber to it. What these do is the spring allows the valve to move, so if you strike something, the oil can pass to the other side. But your turn from your hydraulics on your machine will still work. It just won't have the shock absorber to it. But anyways, like I say, 2 turns out, set the lock nut, put your nut back on there, and then give that cap nut a good snug. So again, on this side, hold that lock nut, run the cap off, take the second washer off, just set those aside, put the wrench in there, loosen it, run that in all the way, until it bottoms out. Put the wrench somewhere predictable, and then 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, and set the lock nut and put your caps back on. So like I say, on this particular valve, it's a 1/2 inch wrench for the outside and a 3mm Allen wrench for the thing. But that's how you set these crossover valves for generic set pressure, and then you can dial them in. If it's too soft or too hard on the impact turn, you can dial that in from there. I wouldn't go any further closed than about 1/2 of a turn, because that's going to really restrict the amount of oil that can go past it. So, but 2 turns out is where I set them generic. Thank you for watching.